The Self versus the Illusion of Self, Jung and Buddha's Profound Debate. In 1939, in the quiet study of a Swiss psychologist, an idea was born that would challenge our understanding of identity and consciousness. Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds in Western psychology, reflected on an ancient teaching, the Buddha's doctrine of anatta, or no self. This concept, central to Buddhist philosophy, seemed to contradict Jung's lifelong work on the self. Yet, instead of rejecting it, Jung saw parallels and possibilities. This debate between self and no self, between Jung's psychology and Buddha's philosophy, forms one of the most fascinating intersections in human thought. It's a debate not just about ideas, but about what it means to be human. Today, we will dive deep into this intellectual and spiritual exploration. We'll uncover how these perspectives complement each other and how their integration can provide profound insights into our lives. Whether you seek personal transformation, philosophical clarity, or simply a greater understanding of consciousness, this journey will illuminate paths rarely traveled. Chapter 1: Carl Jung and the Self. Carl Jung's exploration of the psyche began with the individual. For Jung, the self was not just a concept but a dynamic reality, the totality of conscious and unconscious elements within a person. He defined the self as the central archetype, representing wholeness and integration. Unlike the ego, which is the conscious part of our identity, the self encompasses the entirety of the psyche. It is both the origin and destination of human development. Jung's concept of individuation, the process of integrating unconscious aspects of the psyche into consciousness, was central to his work. He believed that only by confronting and assimilating the shadow, the rejected and hidden aspects of ourselves, could we achieve true psychological wholeness. Through dreams, myths, and symbols, Jung uncovered universal patterns of the human psyche, which he called archetypes. These archetypes, shared across cultures and time, pointed to a deeper, collective unconscious. One of Jung's most profound insights was that the self is not an endpoint but a continuous unfolding process. This perspective stands in stark contrast to more static understandings of identity in Western thought. He viewed the self as a living dynamic that evolves throughout life, guided by the process of individuation. In this way, the self represents not only the reconciliation of opposites within an individual, but also the integration of the individual into a broader, universal context, archetypes, and the collective unconscious. Jung's understanding of the psyche was deeply rooted in his exploration of archetypes, universal symbols and patterns that recur in myths, dreams, and cultural narratives. Archetypes such as the hero, the wise old man, the anima and animus, and the shadow are manifestations of the collective unconscious, a vast reservoir of shared human experiences and instincts. The self, as the central archetype, is often symbolized in dreams and myths as the mandala, a circular figure representing wholeness and harmony. The mandala appears across cultures as a symbol of spiritual completeness, underscoring Jung's belief in the universality of the human experience. These archetypes provide individuals with pathways to understand their unconscious mind and to navigate their journey toward integration and self-realization. The shadow, embracing the rejected self. Central to Jung's theory of individuation is the integration of the shadow, the parts of ourselves that we reject, fear, or deny. The shadow often contains elements that society deems unacceptable, such as anger, jealousy, or desires that contradict our conscious values. However, Jung emphasized that these disowned aspects hold vital energy and creativity that can lead to growth if acknowledged and integrated. Facing the shadow is a challenging process that requires honesty, courage, and humility. Jung believed that without this confrontation, individuals remain fragmented, unable to achieve true psychological wholeness. He argued that the shadow is not inherently negative. Instead, it is a natural part of the psyche that, when integrated, contributes to a richer, more balanced sense of self. Dreams and symbols, the language of the psyche. Jung's work placed a significant emphasis on dreams as a gateway to the unconscious. He believed that dreams were not random but rather meaningful expressions of the psyche's inner workings. Symbols within dreams often carry messages from the unconscious, pointing to areas of life where growth or attention is needed. Jung's method of active imagination, engaging consciously with images and figures that arise in the psyche, allowed individuals to dialogue with their unconscious. This process helped bridge the gap between conscious and unconscious elements, facilitating integration and a deeper understanding of the self. By working with symbols and archetypes, individuals could uncover hidden aspects of their psyche and connect with the universal patterns of the collective unconscious. The Red Book and the Inner Journey. Jung's Red Book, a personal and deeply introspective account of his inner journey, offers a unique window into his confrontation with the unconscious. In this work, Jung described encounters with archetypal figures and states of being that challenged his understanding of reality. One of the most striking aspects of the Red Book is Jung's exploration of the pleroma, a state of oneness that transcends dualities such as good and evil, light and dark. Through his inner journey, Jung came to realize that the self is not a static entity but a dynamic process of becoming. This insight aligns with Eastern philosophies, such as Buddhism, which emphasize the impermanent and ever-changing nature of existence. Jung's work bridges the gap between Western psychology and Eastern spiritual traditions, offering a holistic framework for understanding the human experience. Wholeness as a spiritual quest. For Jung, the journey toward the self was not merely a psychological endeavor, but also a spiritual one. He believed that the integration of the psyche mirrored the quest for spiritual enlightenment found in many religious traditions. Jung's engagement with Eastern philosophy, alchemy, and mysticism enriched his understanding of the self as a transcendent reality that encompasses both the personal and the universal. The process of individuation often involves moments of crisis, transformation, and renewal. These experiences are akin to the hero's journey in mythology, where the protagonist faces trials, overcomes obstacles, and returns transformed. Similarly, the individual who embarks on the path of individuation must confront their inner demons, integrate their shadow, and embrace the fullness of their being. The self is a dynamic process. Jung's insight that the self is a dynamic process rather than a fixed entity revolutionized the field of psychology. This understanding emphasizes the fluid nature of identity and the ongoing potential for growth and transformation. The self is not confined to the boundaries of the ego, but expands to include the depths of the unconscious and the heights of spiritual awareness. In practical terms, this means that life is a continual process of learning, integrating, and evolving. Challenges, conflicts, and even failures are opportunities for growth and self-discovery. By embracing the totality of our being, we move closer to the wholeness that Jung described as the ultimate goal of human development. Jung's exploration of the self offers profound insights into the nature of human existence. His work invites us to embark on our own inner journeys, to confront the unknown within ourselves, and to embrace the complexity and richness of the human psyche. Through this process, we not only achieve greater self-understanding, but also contribute to the collective evolution of humanity. Chapter 2: Buddha and the No-Self. Over 2 millennia earlier, another seeker of truth sat beneath the Bodhi tree in India. Siddhartha Gautama, later known as the Buddha, achieved enlightenment and proclaimed a radical truth: the self, as we perceive it, does not exist. This teaching of anatta, no self, challenged the prevailing Vedic belief in an eternal, unchanging soul, Atman. The Buddha's insight came from direct experience. Through meditation, he observed that what we call the self is merely a collection of 5 aggregates: skandhas, form, sensation, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These components are impermanent and interdependent, constantly changing. The sense of a permanent self, he realized, is an illusion, a convenient label for a dynamic process. The 5 aggregates, understanding the nature of existence. The Buddha's explanation of the 5 aggregates helps us understand why the self is illusory. 1. Form, rupa. This refers to the physical body and material world. Form is transient, it ages, decays, and ultimately perishes. When we identify with our physical body, we are clinging to something that is inherently impermanent. 2. Sensation. Vedana sensations arise through contact with the world via our senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thought. These feelings can be pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, but they constantly fluctuate, showing no stability or permanence. 3. Perception. Sana perception is our ability to recognize and label objects and experiences. However, perceptions are influenced by our biases, past experiences, and mental conditioning, making them unreliable and ever-changing. 4. Mental formations. Sankhara. These are our thoughts, emotions, intentions, and habits. Mental formations shape our actions, but like everything else, they are subject to change, arising and fading away. 5. Consciousness. Vijnana consciousness is the awareness of sensory and mental experiences. It is not a fixed entity but a process that depends on the interaction of the other aggregates. When these 5 aggregates are examined deeply, it becomes clear that none of them can be identified as I or mine. They are like components of a machine, useful when functioning together, but devoid of any inherent self or identity. The illusion of self. Practical implications. In the Anatalakkhana Sutta, the Buddha used practical analogies to illustrate this concept. For instance, he compared the self to a chariot. When disassembled into its parts, the concept of chariot disappears. Similarly, the sense of self dissolves when we break it down into the 5 aggregates. This insight is not merely philosophical but profoundly practical. By understanding that the self is an illusion, we can free ourselves from clinging, attachment, and aversion. Clinging to the notion of me and mine is the root cause of suffering, dukkha. For example, when we cling to material possessions, we fear losing them. When we attach to relationships, we suffer when they change or end. When we identify with our physical body, we struggle with aging, illness, and death. Recognizing the no-self does not mean denying our experiences. Rather, it means understanding their impermanent and interdependent nature, allowing us to engage with life more skillfully and compassionately. The path to liberation, anatta in practice. The teaching of anatta is central to the Buddhist path of liberation. Through practices like vipassana meditation, individuals are encouraged to observe the impermanence of their thoughts, feelings, and sensations. This deep observation reveals the transient nature of all phenomena, helping practitioners loosen their attachment to the self. The Buddha's teaching on anatta is not intended to lead to nihilism or despair. Instead, it opens the door to a profound sense of freedom and peace. Without the burden of self-centered desires and fears, we can cultivate qualities like compassion, equanimity, and wisdom, challenging conventional views. The teaching of anatta was revolutionary for its time and continues to challenge modern perspectives. In contemporary society, the concept of self is often tied to individualism, material success, and personal identity. The Buddha's insight invites us to question these assumptions and consider a different way of relating to ourselves and the world. Even modern science supports the idea of impermanence and interdependence. Neuroscience, for example, shows that the brain is a constantly evolving network of processes, with no central self controlling it. Similarly, quantum physics reveals the interconnected nature of reality, where everything influences and depends on everything else. The ultimate freedom, letting go of the self, letting go of the illusion of self, does not mean we cease to exist. Rather, it means we stop clinging to a false idea of who we are. This realization brings profound liberation. We no longer need to defend or inflate our ego, nor do we need to seek happiness in transient things. Instead, we can rest in the flow of life, embracing its impermanence with open-hearted acceptance. By seeing through the illusion of self, we can cultivate a sense of interbeing, the understanding that our existence is deeply interconnected with all living beings and the environment. This realization inspires us to act with kindness, generosity, and wisdom, contributing to the well-being of all. Living the Truth of Anatta. The teaching of anatta is not just a philosophical doctrine. It is a guide to living a freer and more compassionate life. By understanding the impermanent and interdependent nature of existence, we can transcend the narrow confines of ego and experience the boundless peace and joy that the Buddha discovered beneath the Bodhi tree. Chapter 3. Historical Crossroads. The exchange of ideas between East and West reached a transformative turning point in the 19th and early 20th centuries, marking a new era of philosophical and psychological exploration. At the heart of this movement was German philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer, who became one of the first Western thinkers to introduce Buddhist concepts to Europe. Schopenhauer's reflections on suffering as an intrinsic aspect of existence resonated with Buddhist teachings, particularly the Four Noble Truths. His work profoundly influenced key intellectual figures like Friedrich Nietzsche and Carl Jung, both of whom found parallels between Eastern thought and Western existential questions. For Carl Jung, Schopenhauer's ideas served as a gateway to a deeper exploration of Eastern philosophy. This interest took root when Jung met Richard Wilhelm, a renowned translator of Chinese classics. Wilhelm introduced Jung to the I Ching, an ancient Chinese text centered on divination and harmony with universal forces. This encounter ignited Jung's lifelong fascination with Eastern wisdom, leading him to study Buddhist, Taoist, and Hindu philosophies extensively. He even learned Sanskrit and Pali, amassing a vast collection of Buddhist texts, which became a cornerstone of his understanding of the human psyche. Jung's immersion in Eastern philosophy greatly influenced his psychological theories. His concept of the collective unconscious, which posits that humanity shares a reservoir of universal archetypes, aligns closely with the Buddhist idea of interdependence, where all beings are interconnected. Similarly, Jung's focus on the integration of the shadow self mirrors Buddhist practices of self-awareness and confronting internal attachments to overcome suffering. Eastern texts such as the Bhagavad Gita and the Tao Te Ching further shaped Jung's ideas about personal transformation. His concept of individuation, the integration of conscious and unconscious aspects of the self, bears striking similarities to the Buddhist path toward enlightenment, where the ego is transcended to achieve harmony. Jung's clinical practices often drew on Eastern meditative techniques, which he saw as powerful tools for psychological healing and self-discovery. The interplay of Eastern and Western ideas during this period also laid the groundwork for the modern integration of mindfulness practices into Western psychology. Rooted in Buddhist meditation, mindfulness was adapted as a therapeutic tool to address stress, anxiety, and emotional challenges. This evolution underscores the lasting impact of the philosophical exchanges initiated by thinkers like Schopenhauer and Jung. Ultimately, the 19th and early 20th centuries marked a pivotal crossroads in intellectual history. The infusion of Eastern philosophies into Western thought not only reshaped the understanding of the human psyche but also created a richer, more interconnected intellectual landscape. The timeless wisdom of Eastern traditions, reframed and explored through the lens of Western psychology, continues to inspire and guide seekers across the world today. Chapter 4. Bridging the Gap. At first glance, Carl Jung's concept of the self and the Buddhist teaching of no self, anatta, seem fundamentally opposed. Jung emphasized integration and achieving wholeness within the psyche, while the Buddha taught the dissolution of the self to overcome suffering. However, upon deeper analysis, striking parallels emerge between these two frameworks, suggesting a shared understanding of the human experience and its transcendence. Jung viewed the ego as a necessary construct for navigating everyday life, but he also recognized its illusory nature. To Jung, the ego serves as a bridge between the conscious and unconscious mind, but it is not the totality of one's being. Similarly, in Buddhist teachings, the self is considered a useful convention for interacting with the world, but is ultimately an illusion arising from attachment and ignorance. Both perspectives point to the necessity of transcending ego-based limitations to achieve a higher state of freedom, what Jung referred to as psychological wholeness and the Buddha described as liberation, nirvana. The parallels become even clearer when examining Jung's process of individuation and the Buddhist path to enlightenment. Individuation involves integrating unconscious elements, confronting inner conflicts, and reconciling the opposites within the psyche, such as light and shadow. This process aims to bring about a harmonious state of inner balance and self-realization. Similarly, the Buddhist path requires deep self-examination, mindfulness, and the cultivation of wisdom to transcend inner ignorance and attain liberation. Both paths emphasize direct experience and personal transformation as the means to achieve a deeper understanding of reality. Jung's concept of archetypes, universal symbols and patterns in the collective unconscious, also resonates with Buddhist teachings. Archetypes like the hero, the shadow, and the wise old man mirror the Dharma, or universal truths, which underpin existence. For instance, the Buddhist teaching of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path can be seen as archetypal frameworks guiding individuals toward awakening. Both systems recognize these universal patterns as tools for understanding the psyche and the nature of reality. Another area of convergence lies in the role of mindfulness and self-awareness. Jung believed that active imagination and reflective practices were essential for integrating the unconscious. Similarly, the Buddha taught that mindfulness, sati, is the foundation for awakening, enabling practitioners to see through illusions and gain insight into the true nature of existence. Both traditions emphasize the transformative power of direct, lived experience over theoretical understanding. While Jungian psychology and Buddhism originate from different cultural and philosophical contexts, they converge in their shared goal of transcending the ego to achieve freedom. Jung's emphasis on wholeness and the Buddhist teaching of no self both challenge the fragmented, superficial sense of identity tied to the ego, offering instead a vision of liberation through self-transcendence. These perspectives not only complement each other, but also provide valuable insights for navigating the complexities of modern life. The dialogue between Jungian psychology and Buddhism demonstrates the universality of certain truths about the human condition. Despite their differing terminologies and methodologies, both traditions guide individuals toward greater understanding, healing, and ultimately, freedom from the constraints of the ego. This convergence invites a deeper exploration of how ancient wisdom and modern psychology can work together to illuminate the path to self-realization and liberation. Chapter 5: Practical Applications. The integration of Jungian psychology and Buddhist philosophy offers a unique framework for personal growth and collective transformation. By combining Jung's insights into the psyche with Buddhist mindfulness and wisdom, individuals can navigate emotional challenges, foster self-awareness, and develop healthier relationships. 1. Mindfulness and dream work. Jung's method of exploring dreams through active engagement with dream figures aligns naturally with Buddhist mindfulness. By observing dreams with non-attachment and clarity, individuals can uncover unconscious patterns and gain profound insights into their inner world. Mindful awareness prevents over-identification with dream symbols, allowing for deeper self-understanding. 2. Shadow work and emotional healing. The integration of Jungian shadow work with Buddhist practices of compassion and mindfulness provides a powerful approach to emotional healing. Jung emphasized confronting and integrating the shadow, the hidden aspects of the psyche, while Buddhism offers tools for embracing difficult emotions with equanimity. Together, these practices help individuals develop resilience and achieve inner harmony by facing their fears and vulnerabilities. 3. Identity and ego transformation. Jungian individuation and the Buddhist teaching of no self, anatta, both challenge rigid self-concepts. Jung viewed individuation as the integration of unconscious elements into a holistic self, while Buddhism teaches liberation through letting go of ego attachments. Both approaches encourage individuals to see beyond the illusion of a fixed identity, enabling them to navigate life with greater freedom and authenticity. 4. Leadership and collective transformation. The integration of these teachings also extends to leadership and organizational development. Jungian archetypes help leaders understand power dynamics and unconscious motivations, while Buddhist mindfulness fosters ethical decision-making and empathy. Leaders who embody these principles can create harmonious, inclusive environments and address systemic challenges with wisdom and humility. 5. Active imagination and meditation. Jung's active imagination technique complements Buddhist meditation by providing a structured way to engage with unconscious aspects of the psyche. This combination enables individuals to confront inner conflicts and cultivate a deeper sense of wholeness. Through these practical applications, Jungian psychology and Buddhist philosophy come together to offer transformative tools for self-discovery and collective growth. Their shared emphasis on self-awareness, emotional balance, and interconnectedness provides timeless guidance for addressing the complexities of modern life. Chapter 6. New Perspectives. The wisdom of Jungian psychology and Buddhist philosophy, when reinterpreted for modern challenges, offers profound solutions to the psychological and social crises of today. Their teachings, though rooted in different traditions, share universal truths that can foster resilience, creativity, and compassion in contemporary life. 1. Addressing psychological crises. In an age marked by anxiety, depression, and disconnection, the integration of Jung's and Buddha's insights provides a pathway to healing. Jung emphasized the process of individuation, integrating unconscious elements to achieve inner wholeness, while Buddhism offers mindfulness and meditation as tools to quiet the mind and confront suffering. Together, these practices help individuals navigate psychological crises by cultivating self-awareness and embracing impermanence. 2. Fostering resilience and creativity. Jungian archetypes and Buddhist teachings both encourage tapping into the deeper layers of consciousness to unlock resilience and creativity. The archetypes, such as the hero or the creator, act as guides for overcoming obstacles and finding purpose. Buddhism complements this by teaching detachment from ego and external outcomes, freeing the mind for creative expression. This integration enables individuals to approach challenges with clarity and adaptability, transforming adversity into opportunities for growth. 3. Compassion and community. Building inclusive and harmonious communities requires an understanding of interconnectedness, a central tenet in both traditions. Buddhism emphasizes compassion, karu, as the foundation for reducing suffering, while Jung highlights the importance of integrating the shadow to foster empathy and understanding. Together, these insights encourage individuals to see beyond personal biases, fostering deeper connections and mutual respect in relationships and communities. 4. Practical integration for modern life. The synergy between Jung and Buddha provides a practical roadmap for navigating life's complexities. Practices like mindfulness meditation, combined with Jungian active imagination, allow individuals to explore their inner worlds and develop emotional intelligence. In leadership, integrating these perspectives helps cultivate humility, ethical decision-making, and the ability to navigate power dynamics with wisdom. By weaving together the insights of Jungian psychology and Buddhist philosophy, we gain a more holistic understanding of human consciousness. This integration not only addresses the inner struggles of modern life, but also lays the foundation for a more compassionate and connected world. Conclusion. The debate between self and no-self is not just a philosophical exercise. It is a deeply practical exploration of what it means to be human. Carl Jung and the Buddha, separated by millennia and cultural contexts, converged on a profound truth. Freedom lies in transcending the limitations of ego and embracing the fluid nature of existence. Their insights, when integrated, offer powerful tools for personal growth, therapeutic practice, and societal transformation. As you reflect on this journey, consider this: what lies beyond the story you tell yourself about who you are? By loosening your grip on fixed identity, you may discover not only your true self, but also the interconnected reality that unites us all. Let this exploration inspire clarity, courage, and compassion as you navigate the profound paradox of selfhood.